Hi, everybody. Welcome to this new episode. This is Maria and Coua with me. And today we're going to talk about goals. It's only fitting since it's like, January 5th? And
Mhm.
everybody's talking about goals.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hi, Maria. How are you?
I'm all right, considering this is
Good.
January 5th.
I know, 2022 already.
Wow. How did we get here?
I don't know. I swear, like as I get older, the years just fly by. There's that saying like the nights are long, but the years are fast. I forgot what saying that is, but it had to do with like parenting and childhood. And now that I'm older, my kids are older, like, yeah, I totally agree with that. That like when they're so young, the nights feel so long, but then the years just fly by.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm like, it's just the nights are long still.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, so
okay.
I guess, what is your kind of first experience you remember of having with goals?
Yeah. So um why am I think I'm thinking seventh grade, but then before I get into that, I kind of want to share why I thought of this topic for us.
Okay,
I thought that would be fun.
tell me.
So my dad, he I don't, it's like, it's hard for me to explain this, right? Like, it seems like because there was the language barrier and a cultural barrier for my dad, that he maybe wouldn't have had any goals, or maybe I'm just making that up in my head. But now that I'm like reflecting back on it, like my dad is a goal oriented person, and like he never like said anything, like never said out loud like this is my goal and this is what I want to do. But I it's just the way that he carried himself, his demeanor. And like from coaching Maria, like there's a lot of talk about like it's not really the action, right? It's who you are being, and that's what really counts. And that's why I wanted to bring up goals, because that's what my dad kind of taught me unknowingly, that like you it's who you are more so than the goal. Like my dad knew that like his goal was always provide for his family, right? Like make sure that we're always safe. Like that's the goal, but he never said it. And that's because it was always shown, the goal was always accomplished through who he was being.
Okay, I have so much to say. First,
Yeah.
I thought it was like the New Year's and everybody around us talking about goals. This is so powerful. This is so good. I'm so glad you're like, wait a minute, I have something, because I thought you're just like, well, let's talk about goals. Because like, well, okay, fine, we'll talk about goals. Everybody's talking about goals. I mean, I love goals. I am
Yeah.
like your dad. And
Yeah.
another thing I think I want to add is, see, this happens, I think, to a lot of our dads. Um, Men in the society that we're brought up in, kind of patriarchal society, when their job, as
Yeah.
the society says, is to take care of their family,
Yeah.
they kind of have to be that way. And they also they don't even, I think, consider it a goal, because it's like something they're told from like
Mhm.
kids that they need to do that. So I think
Yeah.
they just embody whoever they need to be to accomplish that.
Yeah.
And I remember, this is very powerful. I remember Brene Brown
Mhm.
talking about, you know, uh, how a man after one of her lectures came over and said, talk about shame and vulnerability and all of that. And he said, we all, like as men, we go through this too. And you never talk about it. And she's like, I never thought about it, right? it never occurred to her to talk about it as men. Because as women, we kind of get it and we talk about it a lot. But I
Yeah.
think guys are being left out. And I kind of like, I have 3 sons and I'm like very aware of it. It
Yeah.
starts in a really young age where I think that guy said something that stayed with me forever. It's like, you know, you all are good with words, but if I am on my white horse, my wife and my daughters would love to see me die on that white horse than fall off of it and have a breakdown, right? Something
Mhm.
along those lines. And I'm like, that is right. Look how we treat our men. Like, that's how we treat our men. In theory, want them to be like vulnerable and tell us how they feel and everything. But really, can any of us take it? Could your family take it as immigrants if your dad had a breakdown?
Oh my gosh. That's such a
Right?
good question. Yeah.
No, like, because he is like the backbone of the family. That's how the
Yeah.
family built.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, not every family is built the same way,
Right.
but still, it's like you're kind of expecting your men to hold it together. And I know growing up, it's like there was a period in time where my mom was working, not necessarily my dad, but
Yeah.
still, I think you kind of expect not necessarily them to manage the money, but just to be like the head of the family. Like if
Yeah.
he loses it, the
Yeah.
whole shebang is gone, right?
Yeah.
And right, being
Yeah.
immigrants and all of that, it's just like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is
That's
big deal.
totally, yeah, resonating with me. Like my dad, like my mom always worked too. I think I said that before on here, but it's like my dad is the foundation almost because he is the almost like the president, right? And then my mom's the vice president and whatever. But that's really how it is. Like he's really the one that's leading and he's the one that has the vision. And then everything else is supporting that vision.
Yeah, I, it's like when you become a mother for the first time and they hand you that baby, right? And you're like, holy shit, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, right? Like, because
Yeah.
you don't know, you really don't know. I think that's what happens with men. They're handed this leader role and they're like, here you go. And they're like, so they have to step into it. And I think that's why, like, sometimes this masculine energy comes off as like rough and tough. And I think they're just trying to survive because they're like, you're head of the family, figured out, especially like in the countries that were not as developed as US was in the past,
Yep.
like growing up and being like, hey, you're like 16 or 18 or whatever, like here, go.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
know what they're doing. They have to step into these roles.
Right.
Not easy.
No, no. Gosh, this is so good. And this is like such a wonderful tangent off of goals. But let's go back to goals. So the question you
Go
asked me
back.
was like what my first recollection of a goal was. And it was in 7th grade. And I remember, I forgot who the heck came to our school and talked to us, but it was about college. And I remember it was in 7th grade that I decided that I was going to go to college and that it's like that became my ultimate goal until I graduated high school. That's probably my
Wow.
first memory. What about you?
Okay. This is fun one. This is why I liked it.
Yeah.
I remember being a kid. I don't know where I got this from. Strangely enough, we had Oprah and we had a lot of American movies growing up. I don't know what age it was, but I remember having this notebook with a bucket list. I don't remember what I called it in Serbian. I'm sure it wasn't called the bucket list.
Yeah.
Or like maybe it was like these teen magazines, because right after the war, all these teen magazines were coming out and all these articles. So like 90s and 2000s were like when MTV exploded and exploded back home too. And it was like late 90s, early 2000s. It was right
Yep.
after the war. And it was a little crazy. And I think that's where it kind of like, so I was probably like, also probably like maybe, yeah, like maybe 13, 14, something like about that age.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. And yeah, and I remember writing a bucket list, which now I think it was very ridiculous. I don't remember what was on it, but I remember it was like things that I really thought Now, this is me. And this is where like my relationship with coaching goes so deep back
Mm-hmm.
into the past that it's incredible. In a sense that the reason that I started getting a coach and started coaching and that I want to coach people is this. I thought if I did these things, like if I only could do these things, life would get better. And then I remember like starting like the list in the New Year's.
So good.
Also like around that time, but always on that list was like losing weight. Like I always was supposed to lose weight. Like I had no clue how much I weighed. Like this is ex-war Yugoslavia. We were like in breakdown. There was not enough food to start with. But this whole, like I really absorbed the environment and I was like, oh yeah, I need to lose weight. Like that was like the talk then. That was like that heroin chic catching up, like 5th, 6th, 7th grade. I think
Wow.
that's, and then later, like it was always like that was like one of the goals, always to lose the weight. Every New Year's, people like I remember saying like, oh, next year. And then I was like expecting that when that happened, I would like be a different person. It would be perfect. I would be happy. It would be amazing. People would love me, right? It's very fucked up. Which is why I think it's so powerful. And then later, when I came to US, after I graduated college, I had very solid goals, which was like, graduated college, okay, I'm putting in braces, we're buying a house, we're doing this. This is when we're having kids. Like I had a solid list. And those were, I think, when I actually started working on goals and planning them out and like actually accomplishing goals. It wasn't like child's play at that point.
Yeah.
But it was very during the college was muddy waters because I
Sure.
was still in that phase where like I wanted to lose weight and had these unrealistic expectations of me being a different person when this would happen.
Yeah.
And I look at the pictures and I was like, what the hell was I talking about the weight? But it was always about losing weight and maybe becoming a different person. But that brain knew better, amazing. Which is that why, like, when you said, like, you near me, I'm like, no, I hate that. Now it makes me cringe. Because right away, you're like thinking you're going to become somebody better, else. And it's like, it's you. You can do whatever the heck you want. It's still going to be you.
Yeah.
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 And then
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
college, also, like, I was really into, like, the academic success and making sure that I did it and making sure I got into med school, which did not happen, which was like a little breakdown for me. And it was like a lot of that. So I had goals as part of my whole life, and now it's shifting. So tell me first what it is for you as goals.
Ooh.
Where are you at now with goals? Because I gave you a lot here.
Yeah, you did. That was a lot there. And you hit on a lot of like emotions for me too, like especially with the whole weight thing. I feel like a lot of my young adult life, adolescent into young adult, it was a lot focused on like the physicality of myself and having that as a goal too. But back to the new year, new me, something that I recently discovered with that is every day it's a chance to be a new me. It's not just with the year, it's like every day I wake up and the circumstance has changed. And that means I've changed too. So like you don't need to wait for the new year. It's like every day you are a new person. And that just really like it's like when that clicked in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so powerful. I can do things today that I didn't do yesterday. And I am a different person today because I'm constantly evolving. But with the whole goal thing, I find that I used to be kind of like a checklister type person, right? Like here's my list of my goals that I want to do, and I want to be able to check all of these things off. And I think maybe there was a rhyme or reason to that, but it wasn't very strong. Like it's just kind of like, oh, it was like oh, my heart like wants this, right? Like a strong, almost like, it's kind of like when you're in the candy store and you want that candy, like, oh, I want this, like I just want to be able to grab it. Like it was just surface level, like that goals. And now when I think about my goals, it's just much deeper. And I think that's why I have more, for sure, less goals. And there's just a lot more meaning behind my goals, because I like to really, when I think about my goals, I really like to sit down and think about like, okay, well, why do you want this goal? Like, what are you getting out of it? Like, what is the purpose behind this? And then even like further than that, it's like, okay, well, what are you willing to do to actually achieve the goal, right? Like, when I think about goals, it just feels much more rounded versus before, when it was just like tit for tat. Like, I wrote it down, now I should get it.
Oh, that's so cool. I've always been wanted to be a person like that. Eventually I got there, because mine was always like so much more dramatic, because I think I set up goals that were not like, they were more like searching for like fixing or improving me, and not just like, oh, I want that, let me just do that. There was so much drama, and it meant so much that I don't think I could ever actually like accomplish
Yeah.
it. And it's so like, what did you say that I was like, I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm like, oh darn it, I'm gonna lose this. You're like, literally biologically, you were talking about being a new person every day, and I'm like,
Yeah.
biologically, we like, our cells literally change, we become a
Yeah.
brand new person, and
Yes.
we form these new nerve connections, and this,
Yes.
like, our brain can be reshaped. It's
Yes.
not so easy, but we know it can as life
Yes.
coaches. My always big question, and you just said it, is like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Now when somebody says they want a goal, they want to do something, I'm like, why? I
Yes.
really want to know your why.
Yeah.
First, are you doing it because you want it?
Yeah.
Or are you doing it because you think you're supposed to, or you should?
A
Or like, is
hundred
there like,
percent.
for us immigrants, it's like we feel like we need to have a specific kind of a house sometimes,
Yeah.
and have a specific kind of a look, and do the
Yeah.
specific thing when we go back home. And it's like,
Yes.
because everybody does it, and you're thinking you should, and that's the
Yeah.
expectation. And it's like, if you're doing it for that reason, that's not good enough for a reason, right? That's
Mhm.
not going to actually push you through to the goal.
No. Yeah. I completely agree with that. Like, it's like we grew up with this like level of success, right? It's almost like a ceiling. Like, okay, once you're here, then it's like, oh, now you've really achieved the goal. But then I think as we've grown and just through our own experiences, like we've just learned that no, we actually get to decide what success means, and we get to decide what our goals are. Yeah, like I graduated college, and that, like thinking back now, that was really never like my 100% my goal. Yeah, some of it was my idea, but then the idea was definitely pushed onto me by my parents, right? So then
Oh, yeah.
now it's just so much fun, funner, that's even a word. More fun now to really think about my goals, because now I know it's like, oh, I own this is my idea.
Yeah, no, I think many, 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 many kids, especially this day and age, the idea is from the parents. I
Yeah.
certainly know that I did not even question whether I'm going to go to college or not. So I know it's like passed down onto me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have done it.
Yeah.
It's
Same.
amazing. But the
Same.
thing is, it's like, it's not your, like, it became my want because it was kind of instilled into me.
Yeah.
And now looking at the society, I'm like, they can do whatever they want. I don't care if they go to college or not, because
Right.
the world is shifting, right? But
Yeah.
again, we
Absolutely.
had to go through that for us to say that to them.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so good. Yeah. And then I also wanted to bring up this phrase, like one day, because I think it has so much to do with goals. Like, yes, it's on our list, like one day I'll do that. And I feel like that phrase has gotten like a negative connotation or a bad rep, but I don't think that that's necessarily true. And as like you and I both know, it really has to do with the energy behind your words. Like, I could say one day I am going to decorate my master bedroom. And like, I just mean that with like so much sincerity. Like I know like deep within myself that I am going to do that. And I'm not just saying one day because I'm brushing it off, because I'm pushing aside my desire. Like I'm saying one day because one day it really is going to happen.
I know why it has bad rep though,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of people out in the world who are saying, I will one day do this thing when I'm skinnier, when I'm have more money, when I do certain things, XYZ, when I like, right, they have like one day, so they don't actually do the thing that they desire
Yeah,
because they're expecting to become perfect and bulletproof in order
that,
to do it. It's like you're never gonna get there,
yeah,
and that's never gonna happen. So it's like it's almost as us starting our businesses. We could have kept saying, one day we'll do
one
it, one
day.
day we'll do it, one
Mhm.
day we'll do it. And but it depends, as you said, it's all about like what emotion is it coming from? How are you
But
feeling?
yeah,
What is your why behind it?
right. That's
I know
exactly,
that's a really good one.
that's exactly it. And that's like, and really, I think that that is how goals should be born, right? Like from that burst of energy that makes you feel so vibrant and so alive that you put it on your goal list. Because it's like,
Yes.
oh, I'm gonna achieve this because it's just gonna make me feel so much better. It's just gonna make me come alive if this is on my list and if I get this.
I have another way of looking at
Yeah.
it. So I want to say my mother hen, the person that I've taught work from, Cara Lowenthal in her group,
Mhm.
she always says, look, life is going to be 50-50.
Yes.
So do you want to do thought work about sitting in place and stagnating? Or do you want to do thought work about when you're trying something new and you're growing? Right? Like, so you
Yeah.
choose, you're going to have to, your life is going to be 50-50. Do you want to be doing this other thing? While, or her way of asking it, which I really, really love, is like, there's two ways I think that she says, like, if nothing could go, something like, if nothing could go wrong, what would you do, right? Like, if you could succeed no matter what, would you do this thing or this thing? And then she says, if you knew it's gonna suck either way, what would you want to do when it's sucking, right? Like, if you knew this is gonna
Yeah.
suck either way,
So good.
what would you want to still do? And it's like,
Yeah.
these are such good questions. But it's like asking people these questions, they're like, wait a minute. Like, it gets them really thinking, what do you really want to do?
Agree. This is so good. And I feel like kind of like how last week we went into like tips and tricks of
Wait, tell me
yeah, yeah,
some of
yeah.
your goals now. I'm
Some
like,
of my goals
you're
now.
not getting out of it. You can't say, let's talk about the goals and not share something.
Fine, fine, fine. Okay. I'll go first, then you. Okay.
Okay.
So um this isn't just my goal, but I think it's more like me and my husband goal. This first one, we want to get a bigger vehicle for our family. And I'm just really going to go through the why too. So for a couple years now, since we had our fourth child, we've just really been getting by with our current vehicle. It is a midsize sedan, or no, a midsize SUV. And like it works, it's fine, but it's just really not fitting like our family anymore. Like we've really outgrown the car. So this year, like, and really starting in December of last year, like my husband and I really sat down and like thought about like, hey, like I think that a new car would just be really good for us. Like it just make traveling so much more comfortable when the whole family has to travel. So we made it a goal that like this year we're going to upgrade our vehicle to get a new and bigger one. And the funny thing about like when you actually decide, right, and like cement it and have the support of you and whoever else is in on the goal with you, like you get so resourceful. You start thinking about like, how can we get this? And I've just seen it happen with this. We haven't got the new car yet, but I've just seen it happen already with like how the car, I thinking about how this car is going to come into our life. And it's just so exciting. And it's like I know like it is going to happen. And I'm just open to when it happens, because obviously we're not in like this dire situation where we need the car now. Like our car now still works fine. And until that time arrives, like we are okay. But that doesn't mean that we've forgotten about the goal. It's still 100% on the list.
Nice.
Yes, yes,
I'm like, I know your pains.
yeah.
We're family of 7, so we had to get a bigger one too. And it was just like, we cannot go around in 2 cars.
Right, right. So that's a kind of like a family goal. Um, Another goal is so I've been, again, I feel like my goals start in December. That's really when I start thinking about goals for the new year. I've been writing down like I desire clients that want to pay me. Like I know that's almost like broad, but it is specific too. But I've just really been like dreaming and allowing myself to like simmer in that idea and to like swim in that, like it's just that feeling of like, oh my gosh, someone that just wants to pay me. And even further than that, it's like someone that just pays what I ask. Like, how would that feel like? Like, and then again, like, why do I want that? It's like, well, I want that because I know my value, one, and two, like this person wants to work with me. So yeah, they're just of course going to pay me what I ask. And three, yes, it's like it can be that easy. And I guess I'm gonna celebrate on here with you too. I got my first client, design client of the year, and she paid yesterday. And it was, I feel like it was exactly like that. Like it was so easy. I named my price and it was just like, yes. And that was it. And then I sent the invoice and then it was paid. It's like, wow, yes, like this is what I'm really wanting for my business in 2022, like this ease and like this smoothness. So
That's so beautiful.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. For people who don't understand thought work, it's like part of the coaching is like the coaching we do, and then we have a whole different, like you have to do coaching on your business for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yes.
It can be very interesting and intense, and it has so much to do with like your own money
It
stories
does.
and
Oh
your
my
own
gosh.
like capability. And I have just, yeah, it's
So
amazing.
much.
I'm so happy for you. That's
Thank
such a good goal.
you. Thank you. Okay, you now.
Okay, so first goal that I set. So I've kind of stopped doing kind of really New Year's resolutions
Same.
because I've had such kind of like bittersweet experience with them. And
Yeah.
I'm so like against this whole new year, new me. Like, let me sell you a ton of crap now. So you can go exercise and eat healthy and whatever for like a month or go become a member in a gym. And it doesn't really change anything. Like becoming a life coach, getting into this work, and I know I can start goals any time of the year, and I do. But because I was doing a challenge and I was doing some posting around goals, it got me thinking, it's like, what would I really want to do now? And, having 3 babies and carrying around all those 3 babies in your
Yeah.
belly and outside, it does like take strain on your physical activity. And I have not exercised for a while now, like regularly. So I gave myself a goal, which is totally like my goal would be in my brain, which my brain tried a little bit. My brain really likes like, okay, let's go exercise every day. Bum, 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 bum. It's like, oh no, hell no. That's not how we're gonna do it. So
Oh,
I was like, we're gonna do 1 time a week, like half an hour, found like a postpartum program, like a program on an app that I can follow.
yeah.
So it's like I set up a goal so I can manage my mind around it and make sure I do it so I can build it up slowly,
I love
because
that.
I know what would happen. I would jump into this like perfectionist fantasy where I'm gonna do it every day. Having 3 kids, that's really not realistic in my life right now. And I don't want to tie myself to it now. And I don't want to do that much thought work to make sure that I do it. So
That is
it's like,
so good.
okay,
Yeah.
this is what's happening. I know my brain. So I set up like a minimum baseline. I'm gonna do it. And that's my like, I've started it actually while I was preparing for the program. I've started it kind of beginning of December.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it regularly. And there was mind drama. There's few weeks when it's like, well, we have time today too. We should do it today too. I'm like, no, we have accomplished it for the week. Done. Like
Yeah.
literally not. And then there was like a time when we went, we were not home for the weekend, and usually I do it like on a Sunday. And my brain like really wanted to be like, oh my God, we're not gonna do it. We should try everything to do it. And it's like, we can just do it on Monday this week. Just like learning to have my own back, learning to
Mm,
talk to myself nicely about this, about exercise, with not being pushy, sticking to
yeah.
this one thing. And then when I'm ready, hopefully, like not hopefully, but I'm thinking soon, I will go into doing it maybe twice a week. Because all I want is to strengthen so I can keep carrying these kids
So good.
and be strong. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my number one. My number two is what they call like the impossible goal, right?
Mm,
And this is what I've thought about. I've set up an impossible goal for this year, but I've done it like closed my eyes, taken a bowl of spaghetti, and then there was a wall, and I'm like, I'm just gonna throw these, but I'm really scared to look at the wall, so I'm just gonna like throw like a handful of spaghetti and hope something sticks, right?
yeah.
So impossible goal is like, right, like you set a goal and you try everything to accomplish it. Well, I've done it blindfolded, where I've just like kept throwing things at the wall. Sometimes they were not even spaghetti, I think. Right? The point was to throw spaghetti, but I kept throwing everything this year at my goal
Mhm.
that I had. And now I'm like, oh, like we gotta take the blindfold off. And we're
Yeah.
just gonna sit there and just like throw one spaghetti at a time. And my impossible goal is like truly something that is impossible. But the point is of growing through it and not
Yeah.
necessarily accomplishing it while believing that you can, that it's possible. So I've set up a goal where I would earn 50K in my coaching business.
Yes. That is so exciting. Ooh.
I know, for a first time business owner, and like some right, like kind of like a, you have to manage your mind about the business, and then you have
Yeah.
to manage your mind about coaching and clients and actually
Yeah.
do the thing. But I'm standing here with my plate of spaghetti and ready to throw things at the wall and see what spaghetti sticks and what doesn't. But I took the blindfold off, so I'm like,
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
thank you.
So excited for that. Oh, thank you for sharing. Okay, one more thing I want to talk about before we get to the tips section.
Okay, tell me.
Do you do like a word of the year?
I have not. See, that's one thing that I'm not on the wagon for. I've heard about it a few years ago, and I
Yeah.
think like once maybe I've like chosen something, but I forgot about what it was.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it's like I'm like, it's very hard to remember if it's like a word, but it sounds very fun.
Yes, it is fun. And I highly suggest doing it. So I started doing words 2017 or 2018.
Mhm.
And like the first year I did it, it was just, I feel like it worked so well. I think the first word I ever chose was accomplished, because at that point in my life, I was just like, I just wasn't feeling accomplished anymore. So I'm like, okay, for this new year, I just want to start feeling, I love that, having that feeling of like, okay, I'm doing something with my life. And it really did. It like just manifested throughout my year. It was amazing. And I remember like other words were like, I had surrender on one year. I think last year my word was fun. And this 2021 was such a fun year for me. Like I got to travel. I made so many cool memories with my family. I got to meet so many cool new people, you included. So it's like choosing a word and really just like letting it, like you embody that word throughout, and it just comes to life.
It just clicked for me. Like I always talk about this. Wait, it just makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
let me like explain this how it's in my brain. I I get it. Like our brain focuses on things we give it. So if we give it one word, it's gonna look for proof for that one word or one emotion or whatever you're choosing, right?
100%.
So our brain is gonna see it everywhere. And that's amazing. That's like also telling people find the proof is basically the same thing.
Yeah.
And I love that concept. I'm like, oh my God, quick, how you said it. It totally makes sense in my brain
Yes.
now.
Now
I'm
you
like, I
have
know
to
how to work with the word.
choose a word.
All right, I got spaghetti now.
Yes.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Are you ready to jump into tips?
Yes, I am. Do you have any at the top of your head?
Okay, well, my tip has always been like, number one is like your, okay, I have two number ones. I'm going to say number one that I really put as number one.
Okay.
And this is for everybody. Like, really listening to yourself. Really being like, what do I want?
Yes.
And allowing everything to come up. Like, just write it down, say it out loud, whatever. Because many times what we do as humans is when we think something is impossible, we bury it deep and we
Yeah.
don't even consider it as an option. So we have
Yeah.
these amazing desires and these things that we might want, and we don't even acknowledge them because
Yeah.
we're maybe scared. We don't think it's appropriate. We don't like, right? So I'm always like, take a sheet of paper and just be like, what do I want? Like, I don't care if you're like, I want to eat cookies all day. I want to do this. I want to watch movies all day. I want to, like, if you're just throwing random stuff, I want to make $1 million. I want to, like, put everything on the paper.
Oh, yes.
Acknowledge that you want these things. That
Yes.
you don't have to do anything about these things. You never have to go. Like, this is not like, oh, I have to if I acknowledge it. It's like, acknowledge it. I want to try traveling. I want to go on a trip without my family. Like, I seriously have like written that down and I'm like, oh, that's so weird. I love traveling with my family. But there is obviously a part of me that now as an adult would like to go somewhere by myself for like a minute, right? And it's like, sometimes it's like, I don't have to do it or I don't have to do it now, but acknowledging that there's like some kind of a desire in there that you have. Or like people who are like, people who have dreams that are like, I want to be, I don't know, a surgeon, but they're like, but I never could. But I'm like, I don't even care if you can. Just acknowledge that there's a desire in you to do
So
this. We
good.
don't even know, like, right?
Yeah.
We don't know where it's coming from. Just like acknowledge the desire.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That, yeah, just fills my heart up. That's so good. That's such a good tip. So remember that one, you guys. So my tip is more, I think, like words of encouragement. So when you set a goal, I really want you to remember that like you're setting a goal because there's a part of you that thinks you can and you are worthy of achieving that goal. And the more that you believe you are worthy to achieve it, the closer and closer you're going to get to achieving it. And once you think you are like basically 100% worthy, that is really when the goal is going to be met. So I really think that when you set a goal, it's because you love yourself enough to set a goal. So that's what I really want you to walk away with. Like, I'm setting a goal because I love myself. And I feel like a lot of times we forget that, especially when we don't hit our goal, we start to judge ourselves. But the goal was never born out of judgment, it was born from self-love. And if you always bring yourself back to that place of love, that's going to help you keep going.
That is so good. That is so good. Okay. I had something else, but I'm going to tie on to you now. I'm like, your goal, your suggestion prompted me into this different direction. And I love this. When we went through coach training, this was the most powerful thing for me.
Yeah.
Kind of like thinking about who would that person be? How will that person feel?
Yeah.
Having that person almost as a guide to
Yeah.
get you there.
Yeah.
Like, what would that person do? If you already accomplished that
Yeah.
goal, what would you do?
Yes, that's so good.
Yeah,
And
like using that, borrowing that, right? The emotion, the knowledge to get there.
yes, and remembering that that person is already you. It's just you haven't experienced that version yet, but that's you. And I feel like that's so powerful. Like the person that's achieved it, guess what? Yeah, that's just you because that's your goal. And I think that goes back to like taking ownership and knowing the why and knowing why you want the outcome and knowing your reasons, like having those so rooted in you that you know that that person that has achieved it is you.
That's so good. Yes. And this is why is important.
Mhm.
If you are doing it for you, if you're doing it because of love, if you're doing it because you want to, it's your desire, that will propel you. If you're
Mm,
doing it because it's a society standard to weigh a certain amount,
yeah.
if you're doing it because your parents said so, like there's nothing wrong. Like, don't get me wrong, people, you can choose to do something like weight loss, or do something that your parents want you to do, or do something that like you think you're supposed to. You can do it, but the difference is what you don't have the same strength why to push you through it. So then I'm like, if you don't have that strong why, go find a strong why. If you're like,
Yeah.
I really want to lose weight because and I'm like, okay, go find a good why if you really want to. I'm totally like anti-weight loss people, but I'm like, I hear this the most. But I'm like, if you have a why that's strong, then you can do it, because
Yeah.
then you're like doing it for you, doing it out of that love that
Yes.
you mentioned.
Yes.
If
That's
your
so good.
why is weak, it's not gonna carry you through.
No, no, it isn't. Oh, this, oh my gosh. Like, I think this was such a good episode. And I think that
Right?
this will,
Are you done? That's it. I have another one.
I'm just like, like, so the way I'm processing it's like, I'm really just receiving everything that you're saying. Like, this whole episode, like, I'm in, like, the space that I'm in is like, I'm just receiving everything that we talked about. And like, I feel, it's like, I feel full, right? Like, it's like,
You're
I'm ready
overwhelmed.
to move on to the next because I've just received so much, like, so much love, like, from this episode. And it's like grace, the word grace is coming up too. So it's like, I feel like complete that I can walk away from this episode. That's why I'm like, oh, I think it's time to close. But for you, it might be different.
Thank you for that. I'm like, I'm not done. I have one more important thing for everybody.
Do it.
I don't care what your goal is. If you are a drill sergeant while you're trying to accomplish your goal, if you're mean to yourself, if you're not kind, if you're judgmental, if you're strict, what do you think what the ending will be like? You're not magically gonna come to the end and be like, la 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 la, right? Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't happen that way. It's like
Yes.
the thing about goals is not just the goal, it's the
Yeah.
journey. And it
Mm.
has everything
Yep.
to do with how we treat ourselves on the journey.
Yes. So good. Yes.
You cannot hate yourself all the way to the goal and then magically love yourself because you got to the goal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna exercise and hate myself and judge myself and beat myself up every weekend because I didn't exercise or I did, and then come there and like, feel fit and feel great. No,
Yeah.
if you fed your mind all of that energy, all that crap, all those like all those, you were swimming in negative emotion the whole time you were getting there, you're not gonna feel good at the end. And
Agreed.
now I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
getting off of my soapbox. Coua,
Yay.
this is fabulous idea. And thank you for sharing and stepping in.
You're
Sharing
welcome.
about that. That's so
Of course.
amazing.
Good. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad. Okay. I can't wait for our listeners to hear this one. And until next time, have a good one. Take care.
Bye, everybody.